Hello. Several friends of mine in the fly tying community asked if I would put together a video on how I tie my deer hair bugs. And I agreed to do so, but I realized it's going to take more than one video to do this. It's a long, lengthy process that can't be just completed in one video. And I don't like watching long videos on my own. So I'm going to do this in a series of videos. This first one will kind of get you started, an introduction to it, let you know what kind of tools you can need. And I want you to ask yourself this question: is this something I really, really want to get into before you get into it? Because there's two things you need to consider. First of all, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a little bit of skill. It's not just like tying. You have to tie, but you also have to craft it when you're done. You have to be able to carve. And so if you've done some whittling and things like that in the past, or done any wood carvings, I'll show you. Years ago, I was into the wood carving scene. And I used to carve my own duck decoys. Here's just a head from one of those. And you can see the details that went into this, that, this is something that took a while to do. But I think it helps with my tying because I have a perspective of how to shape things into three-dimensional objects and make them look, kind of decent. So that's the first thing you need to consider. The second thing, and really the biggest thing, is the amount of expense that this thing's going to entail, because nothing is cheap. Just this packer alone, this hair packer, this extra large, the largest in the market, hair packers, I think it's 30 or 40 bucks alone. I won't tell my wife. Very expensive. So once you get out, you decide that you want to do this, and you've got some skills with a knife and carving, and you want to do this, and you're ready to take on a hobby that's kind of expensive, then go for it, because you can create some beautiful flies that you'll be very proud of to show off when you get done. So first, we're going to go through a list of things that you need to purchase, necessities. First of all, you're going to need the right kind of thread. For stacking and spinning deer hair, you need to use GSP, gel spun thread. And that's a very, very strong thread, very difficult to break it. I actually have broken it before, but it's very difficult to break. And so when you're pulling down on your thread wraps, you want something that's not going to break. And that's the GSP. You can buy it online easily. But you also need 210 denier, regular thread, for tying your tailing section and for finishing your heads, and maybe putting a little color spot, just a little color right at the tip of your fly, right? Scissors, things you need to cut. Well, I've got two pair of hair scissors. One of your standard, for cutting my hair. And then the other one is a curved set, especially for doing my divers and such. Okay. I already showed you my large, and I'm not quite sure, but I will put links to everything in the description. This is a large deer hair packer for packing to get the tips straight. Another go-to, you gotta have this. Okay, it's Pat Cohen's Fugly Deer Hair Packer to pack your hair good and tight. So when you do carve it and cut it, it gets a nice, good, buoyant head. It doesn't fall apart. Now, hair. Speaking of hair, you got to get quality hair. Only use deer belly. Select belly for spinning and stacking hair. Don't go and buy bucktail for this, or just the back of the. You got to use this. There are two sources. I'll put both of them in the links in the description again. Adhesives. When I do my tailing material, to make sure it stays on there, I just use a regular thin set CA glue. But I also use the thick stuff to make sure that when and you'll see me use it, this stuff I use on my threads to keep the threads from coming unraveled when I set that base to stack and pack all my deer hair to. And then finally, I use a water-based glue and this applicator on all my knots to make sure that does not come undone. Putting eyes on, and for other things to make my flies more durable, I use this. And again, this material really, really works well. It doesn't, you know, mess up your fingers. It doesn't stick. You can just roll it off and get rid of it when you need to. Hooks. Mostly I use stinger hooks. Size 1, size 2 watts. 1 aught, 2 watts. For smaller flies, I use a size 2, but most everything I'm tying these days with deer is a 1 aught or a 2 aught hook. I use the Gamakatsus for my saltwater stuff, but most of my freshwater, I use these. Comb, you need something to comb out to get all the under fur on your belly. And I just use this, but any kind of comb should work. A half hitch tool. This is one of the things I did save some money on. This is just an old pin that I use for all my half hitches. Another one here. A bodkin, which most of you have. And then finally, for my fine carving, double-edged razors. Do not buy these online from a fly shop because you can spend $5 for these, $1 for a blade. I get these at the dollar store, and I think I get 5 of these for $1. And then I can cut them in half, and so I get this kind of thing. I break them in half, excuse me, don't cut them in half. And I have never cut my finger, knock on wood, doing it that way. It makes it a lot easier. So I think that's all the tools that I use. Oh, the vise. I've got a Regal that I use. I started off with something a little less expensive, and the constant pressure and pushing on it, I decided to upgrade my vise. So again, not an inexpensive hobby. It can get costly when you get all these tools together, but that's what makes it fun because you can make some beautiful flies.